This week on Country Music Junkies, we have Peterborough native Alyssa Morrissey on the phone. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Now, we haven't introduced you to fans just yet, so I want to kind of start from the beginning so they get a feel for who you are and how your career has evolved, because from what I understand, you started singing at an incredibly young age, and it has never stopped since then. So can we kind of go back several years and you give us kind of the outline of how things began for you?
Sure. Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. Really, yeah, like you said, I've kind of been doing it since I can ever remember, and I don't really remember not singing. I guess it really started out, I came from a musical family, and we were always listening to music day in and day out, whether it was country or classic rock or whatever. And my parents took me to my first concert when I was about 3-4 years old, and it was an Amanda Marshall concert.
Oh, nice.
And they actually had they have video of me the next day rocking out to one of her songs and standing on a cardboard box, like basically pretending that was my stage. And I guess it was kind of them where they realized that's something that I obviously was passionate about and wanted to do. So it just sort of stuck with me. And when I was about 11 years old, I had my first live gig with a band and in front of a bunch of people at a bar here in town, and it kind of just escalated from there.
So what about country music kind of drew you to it, and why country?
Honestly, when I first was growing up and was listening to music, really the only country acts I knew about were Shania Twain. My parents loved her, and we constantly were watching her concert videos and listening to her CDs and stuff. So she was definitely somebody that sort of altered me to loving the country music. But Faith Hill as well, they were always listening to her, and the Dixie Chicks. And I'm really not sure. That was just kind of what I sort of gravitated towards. And it wasn't until I was about 15 when I met my producer, Cyril, and he took me down to Nashville. It wasn't really till then when I really, really fell in love with country music and being down in Nashville and just seeing that whole atmosphere and the songwriting process and the recording process. I completely fell in love with it, and it's always been country ever since.
Well, that is great. Now, how would you describe your sound?
Really, it's right now my sound is I'm kind of changing a bit, and it's sort of changed since I did my first album about 6 years ago. But the first couple albums, what we were focusing on was just trying to get that, also I was super young, right? So getting that age-appropriate type of sound and lyrics that, would work. But also sort of touching on a little bit of that soulful, quirky side that, that I developed, I guess, when I was working with Cyril. And, so just sort of touching on those points. And I'm really big on the passion and the feel in a song, so definitely the emotion is something that I tend to look for in my style. And right now, actually, I'm heading back into the studio, and I'm writing again for just some future songs and changing the sound a little bit even more then. So
excellent.
I think it's definitely going to stay. I'm staying true to me, and again, keeping part on that sort of soulful, emotional stuff, but definitely changing things up a bit.
Well, that's great. It's nice to see that as you evolve, that's reflected in your music, so fans can definitely check that out. Let's talk a little bit about your debut CD, Use It or Lose It. What was going on at that time in your life, and what's reflected on that particular album?
Sure. So that album, I was 15, and 15 years old, I think you're in about grade 10, and so you're just kind of fresh into high school there, so, dealing with all of that sort of stuff and the pressures of high school and, all that boy drama. I definitely thought it was super cool that, I could have an outlet of recording and choosing songs that I thought best, described me, or I could definitely relate to because I've had it, happen in my life kind of thing. So it was really cool recording that one because it was my first time ever being in a studio and having my own songs. So yeah, it was very cool. And I'm listening to it now. It's crazy because to me it sounds completely different, and I feel like my voice is so different. But other people say it's not too much of a difference. But it's funny to listen to it now.
Well, you've now evolved into finishing your second album, Way to Go. What can fans expect to hear from this CD? How can they check that out? All of that stuff.
Sure. This one we wanted a little bit of a different approach. It's just an EP, so we chose 7 songs, and we worked really hard to sort of find the right songs. We were wanting to go with almost more of an Americano sound instead of that, pop country or the traditional country. So it's got a kind of mixture of both, and a lot of the songs they're different, which is what I like. And so we worked really hard in making sure that we had the right songs that fit to that description, what we were looking for. And this was kind of my own individual project, because when I was 15, I was super new into everything, didn't know what to expect, wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted, or felt like I could speak out and say exactly what I wanted. But this one I was for sure involved a lot more and sure of what I wanted it to sound like. So it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Now, if fans want to check out your music and hear your songs, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can purchase my first album on iTunes, Use It or Lose It, and we are currently working on getting Way to Go on iTunes. But you can purchase both albums off of my website as well, which is alyssamorrissey.com.
Excellent.
And basically where you can get it.
We'll provide a link to that, fans. Now, if fans want to connect with you via social media, can they do that as well?
Absolutely. I'm on all of that. So it's at Alyssa Morrissey for Twitter and Alyssa Morrissey Music on Facebook.
Excellent. And fans, you can check out all of Alyssa's social media sites also on her website, alyssamorrissey.com. Alyssa, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much for having me.